Hey guys, welcome back. It's me, Gimpy, and I'm here with Picket Duty 2nd Edition by Legion Games for you. This is going to be one of my review-throughs where I review the game while I play through some of it so you guys can see how the game plays and how it all works. For this one, I'm going to have to kind of be back from it a little bit. I tried to get it to where I'd have most of it in camera, and that's just not going to work. So I'm just going to take and break the film up, move the camera around to the different sections as I'm on that different section, because the map itself is rather large. I've got it under a nice piece of plexiglass here. Got it set up to where I'm not getting a reflection, but you can actually see my hand reflecting there. It works very well under plexiglass. But I've got it set up for you, and we'll just pan across. Also, as we're going through this, I was not able to take and get the image files for the game. Normally, I'm able to do that. I had requested it, wasn't able to get it. So I'll have to hold the counters up so you guys can see them. I'll make sure to try to remember to do that for all the different things I'm doing. I'll still see if I can track them down, though, so I can at least have them up in the corner like I like to do for you guys to make it easier for you to see everything that's going on. Before we get started, make sure if you haven't that you subscribe and enter for your chance to win my game giveaway that I got going on this month. At any cost, Mets 1870 by GMT. Definitely check that out. And if you haven't, I've got an unboxing that the missus did on this game where she shows off all the components and tries to guess what the game's about. So check that one out if you guys haven't. But Picket Duty is about kamikaze attacks on U.S. destroyers in World War II. And it's your attempt to take and have your destroyer survive wave after wave of kamikaze attacks. There's multiple scenarios that are based on history. There are some what if, could have happened scenarios, and it's relatively easy to create your own. It's a very open-ended game. It's got a lot of replay value. This game is very much in the vein of Target for Today by the same developer. I'm assuming B29 Super Fortress. I haven't played that one, but that one kind of struck me as very similar to Target for Today, so I kind of figured if you had one, you've kind of played the other. But very much in that vein, in the vein of Silent Victory and The Hunters, games of that nature, that you're controlling an object, whether it's a plane, a ship, a sub, whatever that thing might be, and you're going through a series of missions or events, and a lot of rolling off on tables, trying to see what happens, and then making your best decisions to have your ship, whatever it is, survive. For me, when it comes to these games, it's always how much of a decision factor do you have in the game? You know, how much do your decisions matter? Or are you kind of rolling off on a table and seeing what happens throughout the game? I gotta say, after playing some rounds of Picket Duty, this one is probably my favorite out of the bunch, of the amount of control that you have, the decisions that you're making. There is a lot of charts. It's gonna happen in solitaire games. There's very little way around that, but your decisions affecting the outcome, there just seems to be a lot more of that in this. It just has a lot going on for it. I definitely like it. It's one of my top in the list. Components are great. The map quality, it's the thicker poster paper. It's not like a cardstock that you're going to have on some, but it is the thicker poster paper. Should be fine. Minimal creasing as far as backfolding, but there is a little bit of it, which is to be expected on the paper maps. But as you guys can see, you know, I've got it laid out here, and you really can't tell where the folds are when you put it under plexiglass. So if you played with a paper map before, it's fine. Now, the counters are pretty much the same that you had in Target for Today. So if you played that one, you know what to expect. Like, here's one of our 40 millimeter counters. This is the 1/2 inch, and then there's like, what are these, inches? Counters that you're going to have all the different planes on, and they are the white stock that they make the counters on. Now, I did have a complaint with Target for Today with their counters being off-cut, and counters of a similar size, like the little 1/2 inch counters, they would be a major problem in size. There would be a lot of variation of a millimeter or two between all the different counters, and they were harder to pick up or use tweezers with that way. I have not noticed that as much with this game, with the exception of the informational counters, the ones that are located up top. We'll get into those here in just a sec. But all these blue ones, the ones that you're going to use to mark down your fuel and hull and list and station, all the dark blue, but just like these, those for some reason had that issue, but they were on the same sheet as so many of the others. I don't get why they had that. That didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The rest of them, perfect cuts, no problems, no issues whatsoever. So yeah, really only about 10 counters out of the whole game were a little off cut. The rest of them stack perfectly fine and have no issues with. So I guess it's not that big of a deal. It is minorly irritating, but all those counters are kind of spread out, so you're never going to have to worry about having a stack of them to pick up anyway. So it's kind of a moot point. Let's see, what else do I need to address before we get started on it? Really, not much. We'll take and just get started on the player aid. I did want to point out something kind of neat to you guys before we got started. These are not part of the game. These did not come with it. This is called double 6 dice. Now, I've seen someone else playing with them, and I don't remember who it was. But it is a 12-sided dice that has 1 through 6 on it twice. So it's an easier to roll D6. And I got a handful of these things, and I love these things. If you can track them down, do so. They're very nice to have. Definitely try to get a couple of colors in case you need them for whatever reason. And I use these now for my games instead of any of the normal D6s because they just roll so much easier being 12-sided versus 6-sided. Where's my little bag? Ah, here it is. Double 6 dice. All right. They were real close to sold out when I got mine. So if you are interested in these, definitely check them out. I think they might be even sold out at this point. I don't know if they're doing a second run, but definitely check it out. It's worth having. They are a great addition, and so many war games use D6s. As long as you get a couple with different colors, you're set, and once you try them, you're not going back, I guarantee you. Okay, but like we showed in the unboxing, you're going to have a selection of player aids. I've got a couple over here we're going to show in just a second, but you've got one for your dates and times, right? This is going to be used like in your campaigns or starting off your scenario and you're figuring out how many radar stations, or if there's a special type of kamikaze attack, which is on the red dates. The green are for your radar stations, which I've already rolled for. We'll go over that here in a sec. But I think my mission is June 7th. I'm doing the first one just to show you guys. So June 7th. So I have potentially access to 3 radar stations. But like I said, I've already rolled off on that, and I'll show you guys that here in a sec. Now, this is your firing chart to show you what direction all your different guns can shoot in, because you've got your 0 degrees all the way 45, 90, 135, all the way around back to 315. And this shows you, okay, 5-inch guns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 40, 20 millimeter, and you've got so many of each, and then what angles they can shoot at. Remember, for our 5-inch guns, they can be slaved. So if you can take and get multiple guns firing in one direction, you can take and slave them and get a bonus with them that you can potentially lose if your ship gets damaged. That's what I love about this game, is that you can lose certain aspects of things if certain parts of your ship gets damaged, and it's really neat how they have that set up. But interesting firing chart here. And for the advanced rules down here, this is if you're keeping track of list and trim. So if your ship is tilting or rolling in the water because you're flooding, certain guns might not be able to fire. So if you're so far to port or so far to starboard, then you're going to look here to see, okay, can I still fire my guns? I think that's neat that they had that included. Now, there is one thing that I definitely would have liked to have seen included. All right. You guys look right here, this little chart. We're not going to focus on it now, but it's basically just the Japanese hit table right here on the map itself. That's a nice inclusion, because that's something you're going to have to roll on a lot, and they've got it right there on the table. If they had back printed this with the firing charts for the different guns, you wouldn't have to look in the rule book as much, or for the chart book as much when it came to all the different charts. It would have made it easier if you could have just gone, okay, well, these are the angles that my guns can fire at. I'll just boom, 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 move them onto the different kamikaze ships that are coming in, And then I'll just flip the player aid over and I'll know what I'm needing to roll to hit whatever at whatever angle. That definitely would have been an inclusion that would have been worthy if it was on the map or if it was on the player aid. I think it's just wasted space because there's another good playthrough by this on Stuka, the legend. If you guys don't know Stuka Joe, if you're watching me and you don't know Stuka Joe, there's something wrong because, I mean, he's a legend in the industry. But, and I saw that he had actually taken out those little charts. He had scanned them, printed them, and cut them out for each one of the different guns. And that's just, he made his own little player aids. And I'm probably going to do the same thing for myself for when I play this game. It just would have made so much more sense to have that right there on the back. I might just scan them, print them out, and just glue them right here to the back of this to have it that way. It would have made so much more sense. It's just a little bit of wasted space, not the end of the world, because it's still in the chart book with everything else, but it would have made it easier. All right, but we're going to pan over to our other charts so we can get onto our sequence of play of how we're starting off. Okay. Couple of player aids here. The second one down here, we're not going to focus on right now. This is just your secondary compartment sheet. I've got it under the plexiglass. It just keeps track of secondary compartments that can be hit by kamikazes and potentially damaged, and you would send guys over here to repair them, your repair crew. Now, they can, if you see, they've got blue ones. The blue ones are under the water line, so they can potentially flood. So keep that in mind. Above water line, below water line, aft, midship, forward. So this is a very easy one to understand. Over here, though, we have our crew ship's log. Now, this is one of the ones that you're supposed to take and make a copy of when you're playing it and write on it. But I found for me, this was easier to take and have it underneath the plexiglass and just use a dry erase marker. That way I'm not having to constantly make copies of this thing and print it out. I can just write my notes directly on here or other parts of the board. And the stats for all my different officers, I can write right on the board and it's there. And if someone takes and gets killed, I just mark it off and then just draw a new chip for them and mark it. Now, when you're doing this and you're starting your scenario, you're going to take and randomly draw from your little cup of random counters, and these go from -2 all the way to +2 to determine your guy's stats. And depending on who the character is, whether it's the captain, your damage control officer, gunnery officer, whoever it is, they're going to either add bonuses to your guy or to your actions, whatever they might be, whether it's repairing, evasive maneuvers, or something else. Or they could potentially be a negative. Like if your gunnery officer is negative instead of positive or 0, then it's going to be harder for you to hit. Obviously, you're going to have his negative modifier in when you're taking and rolling for your 5 inches and 40 mils and all the other stuff firing. But you'll take and draw one of those for each one of your guys. My captain is a +1. My XO is a +1. Everyone else is a 0 except for my damage control. He's a +1. And my repair chief came out as a -1. So all in all, not too bad. 3 good ones, 1 bad one, and then the rest right there in the middle, neither good nor bad. So I can live with that. That's in my favor, but repair chiefs are definitely not guys you want with a bad score on them in case you're taking damage, and then you're going to go down. And then over here, if you're playing a campaign, you can take and mark down any permanent damage that your ship might have, any notes that you want to take, and then if you want to keep a tally of how many Japanese fighters you have shot down. All right, now we're going to take and pan back over and see the other stuff that we selected when we're starting out. Okay, so when you're taking and starting your scenario, this is your little section of radar and extra support that you might have, weather, what time it is, all that type of stuff, your location, that's all going to be over here. Now, you're going to determine your picket duty station, and that's this little section of squares around here, and they have different modifiers that are going to apply for whether or not you're getting attacked, because where the ship was around the island, if it was closer to Japan, then it was more likely to get attacked. Now, for our first scenario, they've actually got us in the worst position. We're in station 1 that has a -2 modifier. So that's going to bite us in the butt later, but we take and just put our marker there, annotating our station. Our time of day is morning, if I remember right. If it was midday, it's not going to matter because it's just one playthrough, but you're going to have morning, midday, night, and play through those just depending on what scenario. You may play through one phase, all 3 phases, or you may play through multiple days depending on how long your campaign and or scenario is. Generally, when you start off, your weather is always going to be clear, and then you'll be rolling on that afterwards to see if you've got rain or storms affecting you at that point. So we're starting off with clear weather. Now, we have to take, and someone's messaging me, I apologize. It's probably one of the subscribers. AEF support, air fire support. This is the fire direction team. FTD, excuse me. I was looking at this one. You're going to roll on a chart to determine if you have an FTD present. I'll gotta remember to pick these up to show you guys, since I don't think I've got the image files. I need those. That's going to apply a +1 modifier for you as well. And then determining surface fire support. All of this is chart based. You're going to roll on it, a chart for your surface fire. You're going to roll on a chart for your aviation. You're going to roll on a chart for your land activation. Your morale starts at 0. You're going to roll on a chart for your FTD. And your ship's radar is always going to start at 1. Like I said, I went ahead and got myself all set up for this so we could take and get directly into the combat. This is all relatively self-explanatory. There's not a whole lot of modifiers that are going to affect it. I will let you know that I've got 2 surface fires, and I have 4 of these aircraft. 3 of them are land-based and 1 is carrier-based. Now, let me grab the chart that you roll off on that, because I do want to show you guys that real quick. Which one is that? Air fire support, table 7.3. So let's turn to 7.3 in our little chart here and show you guys, make sure that you understand what it is that it's asking for. Fighter coverage. Okay, right here. I'm zoomed in a little bit. Let me back her out. Depending on what date yours is, remember we're in June 7th, so we're rolling here, determines what type of coverage you could potentially have, and then you're going to roll your 2d6 to select this, okay? That's pretty basic. Now, you're rolling on that to get here, and this is going to tell you how many of those chits that you're going to get when you're taking and doing it. And if you have FTD present, you're getting a +1. If there's none, you're getting a -1. Now, for each one of those, let's say you got carrier. When we rolled here on our bottom left chart, we got carrier and land-based, which is actually what did happen. That gave us both. So we had to draw one of our little rando chits here of -2 to +2 to determine what column we were going to roll on here, okay? So if you draw a -2 for one of them, you're going to roll there. You draw a +2, you're going to roll there. Anywhere in between, I forget which I rolled for. And depending on what you roll on your 2d6 afterwards is how many of those chits that you end up with. The maximum you can see that you can end up with is 4. I ended up getting 3 for one, 1 for the other. And if it's a, I'm going to butcher that, Kikyusui. That's the one where you have, if I remember right, it's the red dates where you have just a buttload of Japanese airplanes coming in and they're attacking the hell out of you. So that can go very, 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 very badly. So once you have that confirmed, you're pretty well set up. Let's take a look at our ship itself, and then we'll take and get started by drawing in some Japanese airplanes. All right, here we go. We're taking a look at our ship. Now, I know you guys are sitting there thinking, Gimpy, what are we doing? The ship's this way. That's pretty much a representation of your guns. Yeah, it's your ship, but this is your real ship, okay? This is all the different stations of your ship. You've got your major crew officers here. Then you have, and it wouldn't be a Gimpy video if I did not cover some friggin' counters. Then you've got your stacks of repair crews, which it does have a different amount in each one. So you've got 13 and 3, 10 and 2, and 14 and 1. So don't be alarmed when there are different amounts in the stack, because when I first looked at it, I was like, what the hell? Why are they different? But so you've got your crew members there, and then all your different little aspects of your ship. Let's start left and work our way right. Aft section, midship, forward, so frontage, bow. God, some Navy guys are going to be picking on me for not remembering that. Now, if you guys look at it, some parts of the ship have gray in the name, like deck fire here, stack, bridge, CIC, radio. All those areas have gray names, and then you have these rooms that have blue names. Blue names are beneath the waterline, so they can potentially flood. If you're playing the advanced rules, there is the rule that if a section, one of those blue sections is hit, you roll on a d6. On a 6, it floods, and that can potentially cause issues. I'm not going to overly worry about listing and trim, but we will go over it if that does happen on that. And then I can't remember if it's part of the advanced rules or not, but when the ships hit, it also causes a deck fire in that section, and then the deck fire has a potential to go out of hand, but you guys will see all that here in a little bit. So keep that in mind. Blue names under the water, if it's hit, potential flood. Non-blue names, gray names, above the water, no flooding, right? Up here, you've got fuel supply, ammo, hull, and maneuvering. When you're doing certain actions, like evasive maneuvers, you're going to burn fuel. If you have to do what's called a spray fire, and that is used for special incoming kamikaze attacks, you have to use ammo supply, and then potentially after a certain after a round, you have to roll on a chart, and you could potentially lose ammo again at that point just for regular firing purposes. Hull integrity, obviously, you get damaged up, you're going to lose hull. And maneuvering, there are certain things that affect maneuvering and cause that to go down, but it will tell you that here in the chart. And then all this other stuff that's listed down besides our listed trim, we'll get to that in a sec. You see how it's got a bunch of different squares in it. Like up here, it says damaged, destroyed, repaired, you know, things of that nature. Same thing here, destroyed, and then hits. These are all the different hits that your ship can take. The more hits it takes, the harder it is to repair. And then if it takes too many, you know, it fills its section, then that section is just flat out destroyed, and you could potentially have to go back to harbor to get a new ship or get it to repaired. Similar to Silent Victory, how after you got done with the mission, if your ship was too damaged, then you had to take and wait so many months before you could take and go back out. Similar type mechanic here, actually. Some of the sections have 4, some have 3, some have 2. So it just depends on how easy it is to destroy. Your secondary that we saw over there, that little chart of all the small secondary rooms, they're all 2-section rooms. And part of the reason I put that under the plexiglass as well is because you're supposed to mark those off as they get hit, and then erase them. It's much easier, just use the dry erase marker. If both sections are hit, it's destroyed. And like I said, you can take and send your repair guys over there to take and destroy that as well. Now, as you're taking damage here and potentially flooding, if you're using your advanced rules, it's not used in the basic game, but it is in the advanced, you can take flooding damage, and depending on where the enemy plane hits, so if it hits from port or starboard or bow or aft, is going to take an effect on where you're going to be flooding. So you'll take and start adding list or trim markers into these boxes while also pushing this down, and once you get to sunk, then you have to take and start rolling on a chart, because you're not automatically dead at sunk. You do have the potential to effectively reef yourself where you're not dead, but you're kind of just stuck in the water. And even then, you still potentially go down each time. I gotta say, there's a lot of potential for anything to happen. You can survive things. You can take and burn up whole sections of your ship and still be fighting. Very similar to how it was in, World War II. You guys definitely check it out if you guys haven't. There's a good series. It's called Enterprise 360, I think it is, a History Channel show. 10-part series. It's about World War II, and it's about the USS Enterprise aircraft carrier. Excellent little series. I've loved that thing. I've watched it 2 or 3 times now, about all the crap that happened to that aircraft carrier, but it shows, you know, more than just the aircraft carrier and the things that happened to it, but basically that history. And if you're into naval Pacific history, you'll definitely get a kick out of that. But you've got all that stuff. And again, when you're assigning your crew over there and we're doing our values for them, you'll take and place them here in certain areas. Your captain has to be on the bridge. The XO starts there. Your gunnery officer, he's going to be here in the CIC. Damage control officer can go in different places. Your engineer officer, I think he starts specifically in the engine room. I can't remember specifically on that, or if you got a choice. And then you got a chief petty officer as well. So I put one in the forward engine room and one in the aft fire room. Try to have it covered so if anything happens. Now keep in mind, if one of these sections that an officer is in, or if you've got repair crew in one of these sections and it's hit again, or hit in the first place with one of these guys, they're dead. So try to keep them from dying. And there is a hierarchy. So if, you know, the captain's killed, the XO steps up and everyone kind of bumps up a slot. So that's why it's good to keep it kind of over to the side, easy to erase the values, because you could potentially be moving those up. All right, but we're going to take and pan the camera down here. We're going to start pulling in some Japanese planes and let you guys see how that works. Almost forgot to show you guys my bucket of Japanese planes. I couldn't put it in the regular bowl because there are so many of these things. They are just so numerous. It comes with so many different counters of Japanese planes, and it's got all different types. Hold on. And there is these little counters, Japanese attack ends. If you draw one of those, it basically stops everything. You're not going to take any attacks that round. If we draw one of those, I just didn't bother to pull them out, but if we draw one of those, we're just going to ignore it for our purposes so we can take and get some attacks going. And if we draw one of the specials, we'll go over that. But you will take and roll in your little charts, see how many of these you get. Let's take and grab our little chart up. I do like the fact that this one has a detailed sequence of play that was missing from Target for today. But the thing is, this one needs it less. There's not a whole buttload that you have to keep track of. I mean, it's definitely nice to have, especially for the beginning, so you remember all the different boxes to check off. But, I mean, you're drawing your Japanese planes, you're firing at the Japanese planes, emergency maneuvers, and then seeing if they damage you, and then the after effects and repairing. So, not a whole lot to keep track of in this one versus the other. So, anyway, we're going to take and draw for our Japanese attacks. We're going to roll on table 8-1, see what happens. Let's take and grab our charts. Japanese attack table. It's right here below our airfire support. Japanese attack, determine the number. Let's see. Now, we're going to roll on one of these columns depending on what our value is, okay? We have an FTD, so we've got a +2. The chit value drawn for each type of fighter cover present for the lander carrier based. Okay, if I remember right, I drew a 0 and a -2, so that's a -2. All right, so right now we are at a -1. All right, because we got a +1 and then a -2, so -1. All shipboard radar working, +1. We're good right there, so we're back to 0. We have 3 land-based radars, so we're up to +2. Radio's not destroyed, so we're good. For each surface fire support marker, which again are these. All right, so for each one of those, you get a +1. So we got 2 of those. So what are we at? We're at +4 right now. Bridge is not destroyed. CIC is not destroyed. And compartment plot room is destroyed. No. So we've got a +4. So we're obviously going to be rolling on our +2. And the way I've seen it from the way I started out, generally, if you roll pretty well and start off decent, you're probably going to start here. Problem is that we are affected by our picket station, and we get a -2, not on this. This doesn't pull us to the 0 column, we're still rolling on the +2 column, but we're getting a -2 on our die roll. So the best that we can actually get is a 10, which is A. So an NA would be no attacks. We're not going to have that. At a minimum, we're going to get attacked by column A. So let's take and roll real quick, see what we get. Grab my little dice tower here. I'll put it right there. Grab my 2 double 6s. I love these things. See what we get. We got a 4, which brings us down to a 2. Shit. 2. Look at that crap. God, D. Worst that I could get. Garbage, man. It's garbage. All right. Let's take and look at table D. Here we go. And it's got 1, number 9 is a 0 attack, but the rest of them have, oh no, here we go. 3 and 4 are 0 attacks as well. So let's take and see what happens. Now again, this is similar to Target for today, that it has a lot of charts, a lot of little specific rules. Please forgive me if I forget one of the specifics. I have ran through the game, you know, some, or multiple games rather, before filming, but there's a lot going on. I might forget something here or there. I'm human. It happens. All right, so let's take and roll, see what we get. And we got an 11. All right. Let's see, 11. Ooh, we're getting hit hard. Look at this. We got 5 of them coming in. All right, let's take and write down what we got coming in real quick. And that's part of the reason I like this being under plexiglass, because I can just write all this crap down. All right, so we're getting 180 high, 180 medium, 135 medium, 90 medium, and 90 low. Okay, so we've got all that written down. Now you have to determine how many are going to come in what waves. So you're going to go to your fighter waves, and you're going to see number of attacking planes. We've got 5 coming in, so we're going to have 3 in the first wave, 2 in the second wave, none obviously in the third wave, and how many special planes we can have in each wave. All right, so we can have up to 2 in each wave. That's unfortunate. So, and special planes, the ones that have a little red symbol on them, are in addition to these that we're drawing here. So if we draw one and it's a special plane, it gets set off to the side and you draw another one in its place. All right, so you're not going to draw 3, and if you draw 2 that are special planes, only have 1 and then those 2. You'll still have a couple others, so you'll have 3 and 2 special planes, if you guys get what I'm saying there. Okay, so we got to draw 3 planes to start with for our first position here, and I hate it when they do it like this, where you've got 2 coming in from one direction, because that doesn't allow you to take and use as many of your guns, because you're having to take and focus fire. Oh, and it's coming in from the rear. I didn't even notice. I'm going to have to pan the camera backwards to see. 135 is here. I'm getting attacked all from the rear, so we'll have to pan it back. But let's see what we got coming in first. And the interesting part is it doesn't matter wholeheartedly for this, except for the special planes on what's coming in. So our first one is a Peggy. Our second one is a Sally. And our third one is no attack. So normally if you do a no attack, that would just stop the attack flat out, but we're not going to do that. And a Jill. So let's take and draw for our second wave. We don't have any specials yet to worry about. And we got an Irving and Babs. Okay. We've got our attackers. Let's take and let you guys see these. This is our first wave, Jill, Peggy, and Sally. And I'll tell you what, let me pan the camera up here real quick. I want to show you something, and then we'll set these down here into their attack positions. Okay, so when you're drawing for your extra wave, so we've got our other 2, Babs and Irving here, for our second wave, you're going to place them up here in your aircraft attack section. All right. Here, so they're ready to go. And you can place your first wave there if you want, but I go ahead and just leave them down here and throw them into the spaces they're going to go. But right here on the side where it says special attack aircraft, that's where you're going to place your special attack aircraft. And then after you've completed the wave itself with however many guys are attacking or whatever's going on, that's when you're going to resolve those special attack planes, because they are not handled the way that a regular plane is. That's where your spray fire comes in. And you need sometimes to, especially if you have special attackers, to save your air cover or your surface fire support, because your regular guns can't fire at those special guys. You get a very limited window to try to take them out, and then they're busting your ship up. All right, well, let's pan down to the bottom of our ship and see how we do against these guys. All right, I got a feeling this might not be going too well for me. So let's flick this way. First one, 180 high. Set my plane there. Second one, 180 medium. We'll set this plane here. And then 135, what was it, medium. All right, that's not going to be good for my low guns. All right, my front guns, I don't even know how many of those are going to be able to get involved with it. So let's take and mark these off. We've got those covered. And the other two ways, or the other two planes, will be covered here in just a second. Now, this is the point at which we determine what guns are firing at what planes. And this is where this little player aid comes in handy big time. All right, let's see. Let's look at 180. We don't have a whole lot that can fire at it. And remember, your 20 millimeters, they can only fire at low or medium. They can't fire at high. So I know for a fact this high one has to be taken out with 40 mil or 5-inch guns. Okay, let's gather everything together that's going to be able to fire at either 135 or 180. Is there anything that can fire at one that can't fire at the other? Okay, so 135, these... Ooh, 135's got a lot that can fire at it. There's only one thing that can fire at 180 that can't fire at 135, and that is my 20 millimeter E gun. We will slide that over there to make sure we know that. And let's grab these other 135s that can't fire at 180, because we know we're going to use those for 135. So 40 millimeter B and C, which should be right here. There. Oh, nope, those are 20 mil. 40 millimeter C, 40 millimeter B. So those two guys can fire at 135 and 20 mil B and C, which were these two anyway. So those four guns cannot hit 180. They can only hit 135 of what's coming in on us. But yeah, so this is a medium. That's good. That's probably the only stuff I'm going to have actually firing at them, because the rest that I have access to are going to have to be divided up between these two planes. So let's see. 180 for our 5-inch guns. It's going to be 3, 4, and 5. Okay, well, let's just drag them over and I'll decide which ones I'm going to slave. Because for a 5-inch gun to be slaved, it has to be firing at the same target. I'm probably going to take and fire those all at the same target, probably high. So let's do that. I will show you guys real quick. Now, something I saw Stuka do is, you see how this 5-inch gun says Mark 37? That's the slaving that I'm talking about that gives you a bonus. That counter, it exists with the Mark 37 on it, and then there's a plain version, because this is our number 3 5-inch gun, and it exists without that, to help you differentiate between the two, because this one would not be getting the bonus. I saw Stuka take and glue these together, actually. I haven't done it yet, but I think that's a good idea, to have the Mark 37 on one side and the plain one on the other, so you've got those, just to be able to flip them. Okay, so we've got 3 5-inch guns there at 180. We also have 40 millimeter E, which I already grabbed. No, I did not. Where's 40 millimeter E? It can go down there. And 20 millimeter E is already over there, and 20 millimeter F and G. So these two. So I'll tell you what, that's probably how I'm going to divide this up. Actually, that's pretty good. Let's take and zoom in a little bit on what we're doing here. Pan over just a little bit. Gimpy. Okay. We have our guns lined up. Flip this one around. And it actually works out pretty good. Like I said, these guns could only target this plane of the planes that were coming in. So I knew I was going to have to divide the rest of them up. My 5 inches are going to have the best chance to get this high guy over here. And especially if I slave them all, they can only be slaved if they're firing at the same target. So there was no reason not to just line them all up. Because if I pulled one off to go over onto this plane, it would have lost the Mark 37 bonus. So I'm better off to have that there. And again, the remainder of the guns, 3 20 millimeters and 1 40 millimeter, are going after this dummy right here. However, we do have our stacks of counters. Now, we have 2 surface and 4 aircraft that can take and help. And these aren't that good. They're better than nothing. It's definitely nice to have them. And the fact that they only hit on a 6. Okay, so you roll a d6 on a 6, they automatically kill the plane and it's done. But 1 through 5, they miss, no good. So since I've got 6 of them, there's no reason not to take and just put 2 of them on each aircraft. Give myself a shot with either one of them. Now, like I said, if I had special aircraft coming in and attacking, I would save some, if not all of these, to go after those special aircraft. But I don't, so I can take and focus everything I got at these guys. So we're actually doing pretty good here. We've got a fair amount of guns to take and try to take these guys out. Now, these are the charts that I was talking about that I would have liked to have had on the back of that firing chart. Like I said, I probably will take and do that. Just print it out on some cardstock and glue it to the back of this firing chart, because it would make it easier than having to look here into the book, right? So we're going to start with our Nakajima here. You've got your 5-inch gun table, different modifiers, and then you got to flip the sheet over and it's got your 40 mil and then your 20 mil. And actually, I am wrong on that. You're going to start with your support markers. So we'll do our 2 support markers here, and then we'll do the rest of our guns. So let's take and grab our dice. No modifiers, simple, straight 6. We'll take and kill him. Let's see if we get him. Nope, first one's a 1. Good grief, I rolled a shitload of 1s the other day too when I was doing this. It's like this yellow one, I think, rolls a lot of 1s. Oh, I saw the 6 too, spinning. Nothing. Okay, those 2 missed, so we are not going to just luck out and take him out outright. Now, to take this plane out, we either need to get a destroyed result on him or 3 hits. 3 hits will kill him outright, but anything less, he's still going to be flying. But there is a damaged result, so if he's damaged, it does reduce the likelihood of him being able to damage us. Let me grab some of my hit markers up here, set them right here in case we need them. Okay. We are going to take and attack. Oh crap, I can't. Oh, he was high and dummy here I think was medium. Forgot which one was which. Let's take and look back at our chart. It's high and medium, yes. Okay, so he's high, so we're going to look on our 5-inch high table. 6 is going to be a hit. Remember, we're getting a +1 for the guns being slaved. And is there anything else? And that's what this is here. Your 5-inch gun bonus. So if it's low, you're not getting that bonus. You're only getting it at medium and high. So you have to keep that in mind. Don't have an ace crew. My gunnery officer is a 0, so nothing. And you can have hits on your gun. They can take damage. So that will reduce your gun's ability as well. So we're just getting a +1 on this. Not too bad. Again, a 5 for us is going to be a hit on a 2d6 roll. So it's not the worst, but not the best either. Let's see what we get. Come on. Big number. Okay, we got a 10. 10 should be 2 hits, I think. Ooh, flamed B. Consult shot down column on table 10. I think that's the one where we are... Yeah, it's like he's got 3 hits. Yeah, okay, so he's flamed, shot down, 1 hit. Not bad. You'll take and grab one of your cool little shot down counters here, and you place it over the plane to annotate that. And unfortunately, all of these 3 guns are considered spent. Even though we got him with the first shot, the others are not allowed to take and shoot at him or shoot at anything else. Effectively, we spent our rounds shooting at him. So those are spent, but at least he's down. Now we can take and go for our next plane here at medium. Let's take and do our air fire. See if we get him. 4, no. And second one is, oh, 5, no. Okay, now we'll start with our 40mm gun. I got a feeling this guy might squeak through because I've only got 140 and 320s on him, but might just be able to do it. Since he is at medium, we are also getting a +1 bonus because all of the 40mm guns are considered to be slaved or to have a directive control fire for them. That can be damaged though. So if that is damaged, then they lose that that bonus. But naturally, they do get that bonus at low and medium heights. No ace gun crew, no magazines destroyed, gunnery officer again is 0, and no hits on our gun. So we're getting a natural +1, and we're firing on our medium column. And unfortunately, low is our best chance to hit with the 6, but 7's here, so we're going to be hitting on a 6 or higher and potentially destroying him. So let's see what we get here. Come on, big number. 5, not good. That brings us to a 6. So that gets us 1 hit. Okay, better than nothing. If I can get that on all of them, I'll be happy. Put our 40mm. I like to put the counters right back when I use them to make sure I don't mix them up. Let's take and go to our 20mm table and see how this is going to work. Now, again, it shows you that they cannot fire at high, and these guys don't, they're not slaved. They're not linked, so you're not getting any bonuses. No ace, no gunnery officer shit. So we're just rolling on the guy. Medium is going to be harder for them to hit, obviously. We're only hitting on 8 or better for 1 hit. I need 2 of these to come up 8 or better, or this butt nugget's going to get through. All right, see what we get. 9, that's what I'm talking about. 9 is 2 hits. 2 hits brings him to 3, which brings him to shot down, flamed. So we get to mark him with that. All right, not bad. I'll take that. I'm getting actually pretty lucky with this. G and E. Move our 20mm back. And now we're down to 1. Let's take and roll on our Sally here. Again, we're doing our air fire support. 2, nothing. And this one is, come on, 6. All right, we destroyed him outright. So now you'll notice that I left the shot down ones. That's because these butt nuggets are still trying to ram our ship. If your air fire support hit them, or you roll flat out destroyed on your tables when firing at them, they just blow up. They're done. So you don't have to take and worry about them. So this guy, he just goes right back into our big cup. You take and put him right back in there to potentially draw him later. Air fire support marker goes back, and we will take and put our cannons back where they go. C and B way over there. All right, let's pan back out and let's see what happens to our ship. Okay, we're getting ready to take and see what these 2 shot down ships are going to do, if they're going to take and crash into the rear of our ship or miss. But we don't want to just sit still, swimming through the water, waiting for them to hit us. So we're going to take and perform some emergency maneuvers. Try to get some evasiveness going on here. Again, you're going to take and see what column you're going to roll on. It's captain, and I think your engineering officer, you add their skills together. My captain being a +1 does put me in the +1 table, which effectively means I'm going to be successful on a 6 and up. So we'll take and see if we can get that on our 2d6 roll. And if we do, we are going to spend one of our fuel supplies up there, and it will make us harder to hit. Applies a -1 modifier. 10, that's what I'm talking about. We will spend a fuel, and now we are conducting emergency maneuvers, and we are trying to prevent ourselves from being hit. That is table 19 that you're rolling on there. Sorry, I keep bumping the the camera. This time the little arm for the mic is sticking out right here where I'm at, so I'm having to kind of bump into it. Now, the chart that we're rolling on now is our Japanese hit table chart, okay, and is the one that is actually, let me pan that camera over, that one there in the top right there on the map. That's the one that I told you guys they put on the map for you. So it is nice to have this one right there on the map, but again, I probably would have rather had the guns instead of this one, but it is nice to have it. But since we're over here to our left, we'll take it, just use our book. Now, special attack planes are going to roll here, undamaged, which will include a plane that just has one hit on it, damaged, so a plane that has 2 hits, and then shot down flamed is your 3 hits. So we're rolling on this column, and we're doing this twice. Let's see, emergency maneuvers are successful, so we're going to subtract 1 from the dice roll. Excuse me. No other modifiers are used. Let's see here. Determine what section of the ship the plane hits. Table 11, roll 1 die. Forward section, midsection, special attack. Okay, let's take and roll real quick. First plane, where are we going? No whammy, I don't want any damage. Excuse me, I had to break there for a second. My little boy started crying. He was having a nightmare. I had to go calm him down. Those of y'all with kids understand what it is to have them having a little nightmare late at night. All right, so let's get back at it. Shot down, flamed right here. Let's take and see what we get. First die roll. No whammy. I don't want any whammies. 5. 5 is a miss. No damage. So take and flick him off over there. And second one is... Ooh, that's going to hit. Oh, that hit bad. That hit bad. That is flat out hit. No equivocations. Let's see, that came out to an 11. That brought us down to a 10. Yeah, there's nothing. If it had been 2 less, I would have been near miss, but we are hit. So let's take and roll a d6 and see where we're taking this damage. 1 to 2 is forward. 3 to 4 is going to be midsection. 5 to 6 is going to be aft. All right, so we were taking in our forward section, which is funny because he came in from our aft section. So let's take and we're going to look here on our damage table, forward section, and we are going to D10 and D6 to see where we're taking this damage. Let's make sure. Okay, so these are all for the different things that can happen. It'll have little subtext A, B, C, just depending on where it's going to hit. And shaded ones are below the water line. So we kind of want this above the water line. And don't let me forget, I got to put some fire on that deck fire because we got hit by the plane. Okay. Grab ourselves our D10 and our D6 to determine where we're getting hit by. We are getting hit in 42. So let's drop down here to 4. Mess room, secondary compartment. Mark hits on the secondary compartment sheet. Okay. So we got hit in the forward mess room. All right, well, let's take and do this real quick. Pan over so you guys can see it. Okay, since I'm getting a little long in the tooth, here we're going to take and break after I take and complete this little section. So I'm going to finish up with our damage from this, and then we'll take and hit our second wave, see how those planes do, how we defend against them, and then we'll show you guys how we do our repairs. Now, since this was a secondary section, again, they only have 2 spots, and you'll just take and mark them off. Our mess room was right over here, so I just marked off the first square, and again, if it's hit one more time, the mess room will simply be destroyed. At this point, it's just damaged, and your repair crews can take an attempt to do a repair on that, but not as many as normal for our primary sections over here. I think it's 1 guy you can take and actually send over here to your secondary sections. Also, though, when you take a hit from a kamikaze plane, it does automatically start a fire, and it's going to start a fire in whatever section that you got hit. So if you get hit in the forward section, you're going to start a fire there. If you get hit in the midships or aft, wherever it is, you're going to start a fire. So we take and we place one fire marker there, and this is the fire marker that has a chance to take and spread out. And you can actually get more depending on how your damage roll goes. But when we do our repair section on this, all we're having to do is roll 1d6. On a 1, 2, 3, or 4, the fire's put out. On a 5 or 6, it doesn't go out. It spreads again, and it will go into the next box, and then you'll try again on the next repair round, and again and again. If it fills up everything, then the fire is considered out of control, and at that point, you can really be facing a mess. So it's potential to go bad, but hopefully it won't be too bad. So when we pick up, we'll take and go with our second wave of ships, or planes. We'll see how they do coming in on top of us. See if we can take those out as well as we took these out, because not too bad, just the mess room taking a little damage, a little bit of a deck fire, which are relatively easy to put out. You actually don't even have to take and send repair crew counters after those like you would for the other damage sections. Anyway, I'm going to break it here. You guys look for the part 2 of this tomorrow. Y'all take care. I'll see you in the next one.